That's not how I did it. This week we talk about the people that bring the horror to life on screen in your favorite movies, and how to do it yourself on Creating Fear 101. Practical effects. Practical effects are defined as this: special effects done in camera or in front of camera without the help of computer-generated imagery or CGI. Nowadays, practical effects are put in the back burner to computer-generated imagery because, frankly, it's easier. Not to say that CGI is a crutch, it's used to augment things that are already being put in front of camera that need an extra boost. Most of the time. But we're not here to explore the practical effects versus CGI minefield that exists out there. This week we're going to explore how guys like Greg Nicotero, Tom Savini, Rick Baker, and Screamin' Mad George made it happen in real life. So, where do we start when we talk about special effects? Now, there's a difference between makeup effects and in-camera effects. Makeup effects are things that you do to the actor, and practical in-camera effects are things you do to the environment. Also, when we talk about special effects, we talk about gags. That's going to be anything that happens to the environment or to the actor in the environment. And this can range from a door opening unexpectedly to someone getting their head chopped off. It all depends on the movie or the situation. 1968's 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick himself headed up the special effects team, and they created some of the most mind-bending images in cinema to date. People are still clamoring over this film and how well it holds up, even 52 years later. Using a combination of wire work, miniature, and perspective, Stanley Kubrick created a weightless feel and a slow, sluggish unfolding that's just about how things would operate if you were in deep space. Basically, he created a world that no one had ever experienced before. And he did it without computers. In fact, if you ever want to read something mind-bending, just go look at how they did the digital readouts for the screens that weren't even a focal point of the shot, they were just in the background. The innovations continue until 9 years later, when a little film called Star Wars changes the game forever. George Lucas and the special effects wizards at Industrial Light and Magic innovated techniques that are still in use today. Even the way they made things blow up in space was unique to them. How did they achieve this? Well, instead of filming the explosion straight on or from an upward angle, as everyone else had done in the past, they figured that if you blew something up above the camera and shot it from your back, gravity would make it look like the particles were floating through space as they fell towards camera.
When that charge goes off, it will be coming down and raining evenly over the camera, so it'll look like you're going through the explosion.
Pretty amazing. Now we've talked about environmental special effects, and now we must talk about guys like Tom Savini and Rick Baker. Tom Savini's approach to practical effects rewrote the book on shock and awe in cinema. Tom Savini worked on a little film called Dawn of the Dead, released 1 year after Star Wars, and this particular film changed the game for special effects makeup for years to come. He and director George Romero exposed the public to visions of horror not many were ready for. Yep, that's Tom right there. Not only is he an amazing special effects artist, but he's a fine actor and stuntman as well. 3 years later, 1981, John Landis releases An American Werewolf in London, and one of the most amazing on-screen transformations is seen, done by none other than Rick Baker. Any other transformation in a monster movie, or any movie for that matter, had always been done with smoke and mirrors tactics, camera cuts, and dimly lit areas. Baker and Landis wanted to show it in its stark, horrifying reality. The scene, to this day, is difficult to watch. Rick Baker used a combination of special effects techniques, everything from growing his hand with syringes and air bladders.
And that was a rubber hand that we made that had little pneumatic rams in there that actually stretched the palm out. And you cut back to this other point of view, and now it was another hand, which was a different sculpture that was made to look a little more wolf-like, and that continued to stretch. And we just, because the frame was like here, you didn't see the elbow, David Knott just had his arm down, and we were kneeling down underneath him holding this fake arm, and it just looked like it was part of his arm.
To pushing a form through rubbery latex to create the look of a werewolf's face growing out of a human skull. And most famously, the hair growing out of the actor.
You see the hair grow out of the skin, and that was really one of the first ideas I had on this transformation. It was one of the easiest things that we did in the transformation, but it gets a lot of response, and it was actually a reverse shot. What we did is implanted hair in just a little square piece of rubber and pulled the hair through. And when it was played in reverse, the hair grew out.
There was a huge era of shock and awe in horror cinema that came out from the mid-'80s to the early '90s. You can pretty much throw a dart in any direction and hit a film that'll gross you out. But one film in particular holds the torch, so to speak, and that film is 1992's Society. Special effects done by Screaming Mad George. Society is about an alien race that feed off of the lessers during something called the shunting. Needless to say, I would probably get demonetized if I showed you any of it, but suffice to say, it's some of the most shocking full-body makeup you will ever see. Here's a clip.
Well, son, I guess you're right. I am a butthead.
As we move into cinema over the past 20 years, practical effects grow less and less important, and CGI is continuing to take over. However, there are still pioneers of the late, great technique. The biggest one today being Greg Nicotero. Greg Nicotero currently is most well known for his pivotal role in the special effects of the #1 TV show of the past 10 years, The Walking Dead. Greg Nicotero, however, started out as one of the owners of K&B Effects, responsible for movies like The Evil Dead 2 and a bunch of different great horror classics. Inspired by the greats like Rick Baker and Tom Savini, Greg Nicotero brings old school horror technique into a new school environment. His award-winning work on The Walking Dead is truly a study in old school.
So our workshop here, we have a lot of dummies, prosthetics, stuff that we're going to be using throughout the next 6 months. How's it going? Please don't kill me. And then he'll get knocked over, and then you'll see a great close-up of...
Now, makeup effects are used to establish character, also to establish the death of a character. Now, practical effects doesn't mean makeup all the time. Practical effects can be any one number of things done in camera without CGI. For an example, I'll show you how I created the special effects in my horror short Laundry Sucks. Figuring out how to make it seem like a ghost was there was non-trivial because I'm one person. So I tapped into some of my knowledge of special effects that I gained from watching and listening to all the people that have been mentioned in this video. I wanted to do this in a very repeatable fashion so I could open the door, go close it, and have the closing of the door reset the gag. So this is what I came up with. I found this mini tripod that looked kind of like a grappling hook if I extended it like this, and a length of rope. I tied one end around the little grappling hook that I found, and now I had this. I found that if I placed my little grappling hook right behind the door, closed it, when I pulled on the string, it would open the door. More importantly, when I came back over in shot to close the door, the very action of closing the door would reset the rig. Pretty cool, huh? Now I know exactly what you're thinking. Really? That's it? A bendy tripod on a string? That's what this is all about? The answer is a resounding yes. Some of the coolest and best special effects, most effective special effects, are the simplest. There are easily a dozen ways I could have opened that door. I could have even done it in post with CGI. However, y'all would have known something was fishy right off the bat. If I do it in camera, in the moment, with very little to no cut, there's really no way that you can explain it. Because you can see me the entire time. I'm the only one filming. So that's what makes it even scarier. If you know I'm alone, and then suddenly I'm not, there's nothing you can do about it but sit back and watch. To create the illusion of me being drug up the stairs by an unseen force is one of the oldest tricks in the book. That's right, instead of going up the stairs, I filmed me sliding down the stairs and just reversed the film. Yeah, that's how that's done most of the time. The fact of the matter is, the simpler the solution, the more effective the gag. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Creating Fear 101. I'm having a lot of fun doing these. I hope you guys are having just as much fun watching them. If you have any suggestions about ones I should do in the future, or if you want to talk about some other stuff that I maybe have missed on this episode, leave it in the comments down below here. Also, everybody that I talked about in today's episode is going to be in the description. I highly recommend you check them out if you don't know who they are, or if you just want to know more about them. Check me out on TikTok right here, Jason Purcell 5. I'm having a lot of fun in that app. Use my QR code right here, just scan it and you get instant access to the app. And above all, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.